How's it going, everybody? My name is Cameron White, and welcome back to your favorite monthly horoscope, this time for March of 2024, Aries, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you. We have a lot to kind of talk about with this month, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're starting this month off on March 4th with Venus entering Taurus. Now, for you, Aries, Venus is going to be entering your second house. So the second house, of course, is all about money, our finances, what we physically own and what we possess, as well as what resources we have available to us. And as Venus enters Taurus, she's entering her home sign. So Venus, the planet of love, money, she wants to attract us to nice things. She wants to bring us together to the things that we enjoy. When she's in her home sign, she can do that job really, really well. So as Venus goes through Taurus, through your second house, I would definitely expect a little bit more of a financial comfort zone, a little bit more financial support. If you've been looking to make some more money or invest some money, this would also be a really good time for that. As Venus is in Taurus, this also might be a time where you spend some more money on nice luxury goods that you want. So as Venus transits your second house, don't be afraid to spend a little bit because you deserve it. It's been a very hard time for you guys, but Venus transiting Taurus for the most part of March is going to be pretty enjoyable. You're going to see a lot more attraction coming into that money house, so that could look like extra income coming in, maybe even a little bit of a bonus depending on your work situation. However, financial things are looking good. But also on March 4th, we have Mercury retrogressing back into Aquarius. Now, Mercury has been retrograding in your 12th house for the past couple weeks, and this has brought up some confusion, some miscommunications. The 12th house is all about what we repress or what we try not to acknowledge. It can be a little bit intimidating. It's kind of like, where your subconscious and all of that bullshit kind of lies. And as Mercury's been retrograding in your 12th house, this has probably brought up a lot of confusion, miscommunications, and you probably haven't been able to see where they're coming from. However, as Mercury goes back into Aquarius, this is where Mercury gets a little bit more strength now that it's not in its detriment sign of Pisces. Mercury I shouldn't say likes to be in Aquarius, but Mercury can handle being in Aquarius. Mercury is all about, our communication, our thoughts, and as Aquarius is kind of about networks and social ideas, Mercury can kind of go with the flow of that a little bit easier. However, Mercury's still going to be retrograding, and the big thing is Mercury was retrograding in your 12th house. There had been some problems that come up, some stuff that you've been repressing probably got brought up, some fears, and you've probably been a little bit more isolated than normal. As Mercury goes back into your 11th house, go talk to your friends. Like Mercury's retrograding in your 11th house. Maybe you might have some friends that can support you with what you're going through, or maybe you need to talk to someone. This is going to be a really good time to actually start reaching out to some friends. And then the next big thing we've got going on is on March 9th, we're going to be having the full moon in Virgo as Mercury stations direct. So this is quite a bit of stuff going on this day. And the full moon in Virgo is always a time to kind of be punctual, understand what we need to do. As the sun's in Pisces, we're kind of going through this metamorphosis, through a change. Mutable signs are all about changing. And as the sun's been in your 12th house, you've probably been bringing some light to the area in which, you might suppress some things, or you might not acknowledge some stuff, and there's probably some subconscious blocks coming up there. And as the sun's been through your 12th house, this has been bringing up all of this stuff and bringing awareness to it. This full moon in Virgo is going to be happening in your 6th house of your routine, of health, of your work. What are you doing every single day? Your habits. And so this is going to be a really good time to kind of bring some awareness and kind of make a checklist, kind of make a to-do list with what you do need to be doing with your schedule. If you've been having some problems being brought up through that 12th house lens, this is going to be a really good time to write out your ideas, start going, hey, what do I need to work on? How can I implement that in my schedule? And what is it going to take for me to live a healthier lifestyle? Since I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're trying to, at least do something to help yourself and not just, sulk in your stuff. But as this full moon in Virgo happens and we start to realize what needs to be done in a very practical sense, Mercury is also going to station direct, finally, thank God, in Aquarius. And again, like I said before, as Mercury is in your 11th house and stationing direct, maybe you had a miscommunication with a friend and that friend might have turned into somewhat of an enemy. Maybe this is the time to reach out and reconnect with that friend, kind of go over what was said or what wasn't said. Mercury going into Aquarius and stationing direct there, this is kind of bringing up solutions to our problems that might be a little bit different, maybe a little bit unorthodox, but it's from seeing a perspective that's outside of the box. And as Mercury stations direct with this full moon in Virgo, I think this is going to be a very powerful time to start moving forward with things, start having a lot more awareness and clarity about a lot of our situations. And that's really what's going to kind of help the rest of March kind of go along really smoothly. Now, as Mercury does go into Pisces, Mercury is going to be going back into its sign of detriment, where Mercury doesn't operate or doesn't have the tools or the resources it needs to do its job. You know, Mercury wants to bring and deliver a message. Jupiter's kind of telling Mercury to go tell someone a story. You know, there's not that many specifics. Things can be misinterpreted. And as Mercury goes back into Pisces, though, it is going to be still going over its shadow phase. And this is going to be a time of kind of picking up the pieces of what Mercury in retrograde brought us. Mercury in Pisces retrograde was kind of bringing a lot of imaginative things, a lot of creative ideas, more visual stuff rather than, you know, writing and detailed stuff. As Mercury does go back into your 12th house, though, this is going to be going kind of about going back to what are we repressing, what are we not acknowledging, you know, what hidden fears do you have and what needs to be brought up with that. And we'll still have the rest of March to kind of deal with Mercury being in Pisces and for the most part being in its shadow. So during this time, maybe reflect on a little bit more about what you believe, what you think, and I think this is going to offer a lot more clarity with, you know, a lot of the other things that you're wanting to focus on right now. And then the next big thing we've got going on is on March 20th, we're going to be having the sun move into Aries. Now, this is really exciting for you guys because as the sun enters Aries, it's entering your first house. Now, the sun loves to be in Aries. Aries is the sun's exalted sign where it finds some favor there. The sun likes to be bright, it likes to begin things, it likes to give life, and Aries is all about initiating things, starting things with fierce vigor and passion. And as the sun transits your first house, this is where you might be feeling a lot more confident about yourself. The sun is about how we express ourselves and the confidence that we have being ourselves, being authentic to that. And as the sun goes through Aries, you're going to be feeling better about yourself. And this is, you know, if you're an Aries sun, happy birthday, because you're finally getting to your birthday. Anyway, you're just going to feel a little bit more, you know, inspired, a little bit more happy, just a little bit more feeling better about who you are. But the next big thing is right after that, on March 21st, we have kind of our big thing for March is Saturn enters Aquarius. Now, this is a really big deal. Saturn is going to be in Aquarius from March 21st till July 1st. That's where Saturn is going to retrograde back into Capricorn, and then it won't go back into Aquarius until the very end of the year. But we have basically about a little 3 or 4 month window of Saturn in Aquarius, and this is really going to kind of give a prelude into what the next 3 to 4 years are going to be looking like as Saturn transits Aquarius. And this is going to be a big shift for you because you've had Saturn in your 10th house. This has been causing a lot of limitations, struggles, responsibilities, commitments in your career, in you know, your legacy, or maybe if you're retired, in what you're kind of doing with your life. Saturn in Capricorn could have been a very big weight in your career area of your life, and as Saturn moves into Aquarius, this is where it changes. There's a little bit less weight in the career area, and Saturn is going to start giving you challenges, responsibilities, and help you focus and be more mature in your friendships. As Saturn goes into Aquarius, it's still going to be in its home sign. So Saturn operates really well in Aquarius. I think the big difference is while Saturn's in Capricorn, it wants to focus on being frugal, being cheap, and just making a system that works. Saturn in Aquarius is about saying, you know, what mentally, what logically makes more sense, what works better with the people, what works better in a collective environment. And so as Saturn goes into Aquarius, our problems are going to be kind of focused on, you know, how do we be creative? How do we make everything work for everybody? How do we create some, you know, how do we connect a network like that is a good example, or is a good analogy for that. But as Saturn goes into your 11th house, this is going to be about going, hey, you know, friendships, you know, do you fit in? Where do you fit in? Who are you responsible for? Who are you committed to? This is also going to be bringing up community endeavors. So as Saturn enters Aquarius, the focus really becomes about friendships, communities, and where you see yourself and what role you have in those. But we'll be experiencing Saturn in Aquarius from about now till July, and then it goes back into Capricorn for basically the rest of the year. But just to, you know, say again, this is basically giving us a test of, or a prelude into what the next few years are going to be looking like. So pay attention. Then I really actually wasn't even going to bring this up. There's a few things I actually kind of skipped over for this horoscope. But I wasn't going to bring this up originally, but I now am. On March 22nd, the next day, on that next day, Mars is going to conjoin Pluto in Capricorn. And this is going to be pretty intense because, I mean, we have the South Node, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, all in Capricorn. And at this point, Jupiter and Pluto and Mars are basically all going to be sandwiched together. And as Mars conjoins Pluto, this is going to feel very, strange. There's going to be some power struggles. There's definitely going to be some conflict issues, as well as maybe feeling overworked, overburdened with work. Mars is in Capricorn. It's in your 10th house right now. So this might bring up some issues and conflicts within your career, but also might just have you really busy with work. And as Mars conjoins Pluto, this might be kind of one of those tipping points where, the power struggle is just too much and you need to say something, or maybe you're just being overworked and you kind of need a break. It's going to look a little bit different for everybody, but I would pay attention to just honestly March 20th through March 23rd, because right after Mars conjoins Pluto, we have the new moon in Aries. And as we have this new moon in Aries, this is happening in your first house. Now, new moons are a time to reset, balance things out, kind of get clear, level your energy out a little bit. And as this happens in Aries, where we're talking about what are we initiating, what are we starting, what are we beginning, I think this is really exciting. And it's happening in your first house of yourself, who you are, what you look like, how you feel. So this would be a good time, if you're wanting to do any quarter of through the year, New Year's resolutions, this would be a good time to do it. But this would also be a good time to but this would also be a good time to get clear about what your intentions are, especially with what you're doing in your career and what you're doing in your workplace. This new moon is ruled by Mars, and Mars is right now in Capricorn, conjoining Pluto. So this is going to bring up some serious stuff about what are you doing about the things that you're dealing with in your workplace and in your career. And then the next thing after that we've got going on at the end of the month, we're actually going to be having Mars enter Aquarius as well, and it's going to conjoin Saturn. Now, this is just going to be more pieces to the puzzle. And one thing I'd like to mention is Mars is going to conjoin Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius. Jupiter is going to conjoin Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius later on this year. So there might be something that happens on March 30th that plays an eventual bigger role at the end of this year. So just pay attention to what's kind of going on. But as Mars enters Aquarius, we're going from the, very intense work ethic of Mars in Capricorn to the more, what works for me and what works better for my situation, Mars in Aquarius. And as that conjoins Saturn, this is going to be, kind of about focusing and addressing the issues that for you are kind of coming from friendships or communities. Having both malefic planets, Mars and Saturn, in your 11th house might bring some frustration or, some problems with friends, but nothing that's not going to be overcome or nothing that's not going to eventually go away. But that's how we jump into April. Now, there are a lot of other things that were going on this month I didn't talk about. I'm doing something different with these horoscopes, wanting to just focus on the main things. So with that being said, that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what personal planets that any of these transits are going to hit and affect you. I'd love to know about it in the comments. But thank you guys so much for being here again. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next month.